Okay, hello professional communication students. Welcome to Module 2 and Week 2 in our class. Now, I know some of you were very frustrated with technology last week. You had a lot going on. You were trying to record a video and understand content and syllabus, and I have to tell you, and I'm still having trouble, I am having similar issues. This is the third time I've made this tape, so we're hoping that it goes well this time. So what I want to say is last week was supposed to be kind of frustrating. You needed to get a start. This is some of your first courses or your first semester at Granite State College. Maybe it's the first time you've taken an online class. So just take a deep breath. And I'm going to too. Because it's meant to be, not to be frustrating, but to be challenging to try this for the first time, especially when I'm asking you to do media and that type of thing. So I don't want you to be discouraged, and I want you to know you have support. What I found this past week is that a lot of us struggled when we were using something other than YouTube. And I don't want you to feel the need to have your privacy jeopardized in any way. But I do think YouTube, making a video on your computer or uploading or recording directly from YouTube, those are the most successful videos. So I'd like to offer the opportunity for anyone who's still struggling with technology. I said it's a great idea for us to set up a phone conversation. And I think that's the way I'm going to handle any troubleshooting stuff from now on. In All Night Cafe, if you're really struggling to get a concept, whether it's technology or not, let's set up a time that we're going to talk on the phone. Because I found that I wasn't always available when people needed me, and that people needed me, perhaps on a Sunday afternoon. Sundays are typically the time I do spend with my family, so you might not always catch me on a Sunday. So I just wanted to say that too. So setting up the phone conversation is the best way for us to connect. And it's best to look at the assignments during the week before the weekend. So even if you're just taking time on a Friday morning or some other time, before the weekend to see what you might need to do for the weekend. It's easier to troubleshoot when it's not a Saturday or a Sunday, even though I know many of you are needing to do your assignments on those days. And I'm not saying you need to complete all of your assignments by Friday, but at least look them over and see what questions you might have before we, again, get into a weekend situation where we might not be able to be in touch with each other. So, things that we tried to accomplish last week, we did our introductory discussion board assignment. What else did we do? We did our first research exercise with our topics, and we also took a look at the syllabus and reviewed the Jing video to see what questions you might have about that. And a lot of you had some good questions. You had particularly good questions about these topics that I've given you, right? This contemporary conundrum is kind of a funny thing. And what I'm trying to get you guys to think about is taking any of these questions and turning it into a persuasive or research question, right? So if we're talking about Can't Buy Me Love, we're really talking about what? Maybe the idea that wealth and prosperity are an important part of the longevity of someone's relationship. I think we all want to believe that it's noble and okay and doable if you are, poor and happy and in love, right? But the reality of the situation is financial strain is actually one of the number one things that lead to divorce or to a couple not being able to sort of hang in there in the long term. They have a lot of different values around it. They have frustrations. It causes a ton of stress on a relationship. So when you're arguing Can't Buy Me Love, you're thinking about those types of things. When you're talking about whether or not robots dream, we're asking, will artificial intelligence ever advance to a point where, robots can have a range of emotions. A man-made product can have human emotions. So there's so much being written about that. And this week you'll actually read an article that even if it's not your topic, it's a very interesting article and help you with your MLA. So anyways, I just wanted to put that out there. And I know that we're moving forward in assignments before you've had feedback on the assignments from last week. I will spend the week giving you detailed comments and grades, but that usually takes me to Monday. By Friday, though, I try to give you sort of general lecture notes on the major assignments. So the research exercise and your introductory videos and what's the last thing? And the quiz. So I will, before your major assignments for next week are due, you will at least get some general feedback on how we all did on those. I thought your videos were great. I actually thought your personalities came out You all took a risk. You made them interesting. You were personal. You were honest. You figured out the technology, most of you, and if you didn't, we'll talk. So anyways, I think that first round went really well, and I can now put faces with names, which is really cool. So what I'll do is that I will again give you detailed comments about those. I'll grade those along with your 2 other major assignments. Going into week 2, we are focusing on writing the bulk of speech 1, which is the formal outline, the full formal outline. This is the piece in the guide in which I say that there's a written component to every speech and a delivery component. We're doing the writing this week, which is, of course, the hardest part, right? So the book has 2 great top chapters, 3. Chapter 9, 10, and 11 all talk about organizing your speech, introducing it, outlining it, including main points, concluding it, and writing a full outline. And a full outline is in complete sentences. It's almost like writing an essay into an outline. You have paragraphs, complete sentences. You're using MLA in-text citations, which I'll talk about in 1 second. And you're having a product that's very complete. By next week, we're going to turn that into a speech delivery outline, which is how you're going to actually speak the speech, because it's, the written component doesn't always translate well into the actual speech. So I will work on that next week. But for this week, let's get the bulk of it written. Let's make sure we have supporting evidence and we're able to defend our side. So there's an exercise that asks you to do that, and chapters in the book that ask you to do that. The other big piece is that I know that many of you, this is an introductory course. It's your first time with composition and potentially your first time with research. So I've given you an activity that I use in my college composition classes, and it's around MLA. So it's the concept that we must, cite any sources that we use in the body of our speech or essay, and that you cite those using an author's name if you have it. If you don't have an author's name, you use an article. If you don't have an article title, you use a website or major work, right? So we're moving from specific to general when we're citing. So the worksheet helps you work through that. There's a guide, and then there's an actual worksheet I want you to fill out and where you'll punctuate the MLA. It also asks you to read an article and work on paraphrasing and analyzing, right? Because we can't just leave the information out there. We actually have to connect the dots, right, and do something with it. Because our audience is going to ask, okay, so you told me that, there was a study done in which, 50% of couples divorced over financial reasons, right? So then, okay, so what? That's what your audience is going to say. So what? So you have to help us connect the dots, and that's where the analysis of it comes in. So the MLA worksheet will ask you to do that. You'll submit the full outline. And then I just asked you to look at some of your peers' introductory videos in preparation for next week when we're actually going to workshop the full outline. So you'll put your full outline up on the discussion board next week after you turn it into me, and we'll assign you peers to look at it and to give you some feedback before the final is due. And they'll also give you some idea of how to help turn that into an actual speech. So in preparation for that, I've asked you to just comment on the first presentations that are out there, those introductory videos. You have to pick 2 of your peers to give them some feedback on. And feedback can be encouraging. You can say, I like Batman also, or you can, connect to them on a human level, but I also want you giving them feedback. I want you to tell them at least a couple of things you thought were successful in their first presentation, and then 2 areas of improvement, 2 things that you notice. Perhaps they speak very quickly, they don't look at the camera, they're not making eye contact, the hand gestures are distracting. And these are hard to hear, right? I mean, if I had you guys critique me, which I've done often, it's hard to hear that feedback and think, oh, I didn't even notice I was doing that. My big thing is that I use all the time. I'm sure you all know it. And I go so all the time. And those are what's called crutch words, and you'll find your crutch word. I've saw many of your crutch words. And that's just the thing that you use when you're trying to transition between sentences or ideas. We're trying to not take those all the way away, because those are good for a speech too. It helps you pace yourself. But when there's too many of them, they become very distracting. So those are the types of things you're going to comment on in your peer speech. And then the successes. I commented to Nick Swan. I thought he did a great job showing his personality. He used really good, memorable examples of who he is. The blue Chevy truck and watching Curious George with his daughter. And I thought that was all memorable. And those were nice anchors for me to remember Nick Swan by, right? They were unique to him. So that's something you could comment on in terms of success. So those are the 3 major assignments for the week. I will have an audio walkthrough of MLA and those 2 exercises up probably by tomorrow morning so that you aren't totally lost and I'm giving you some direction on how to do MLA. Please don't suffer by yourself. Please set up a phone conversation with me. Sometimes just picking up the phone and the 2 of us connecting can make you feel a whole lot better about being lost out there at home trying to figure it all out. Okay, so I don't want you to struggle. I don't want you to struggle at all, and I don't want you to get frustrated. There are going to be growing pains, though. The best learning is when you're uncomfortable, right? Because you're trying to get out of a state of discomfort and that's when you learn. So, anyways, best of luck this week. I will make sure to check the All Night Cafe for anyone who wants to speak over the phone, or you can continue to post general questions there. I will start looking at your assignments, and best of luck as you start to navigate this week. Thanks all.